Hey guys, you're watching Daniel and Gian talk shit, and today we're talking media bias and if you should believe them or not. It is, what's the day today? The October 29th, Thursday, October 29th, 8:53 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are less than a week away from the official presidential election, although most of us, myself, I don't know if Daniel's dropped his ballot.
Not yet, still.
Most people have already mailed in their ballots or dropped them off in those nice little yellow boxes that are planted all over LA County. I don't know how it's set up where you live or whoever, whatever.
Oh, I threw mine in the trash can. I figured since they're finding so many ballots in the trash can that they might find mine there too, you know.
Well, there you go. That's the best way to get it. Today I want to start off talking about, I've been watching, it's crazy the stuff that you see on Twitter and people hiding behind their avatars and the stuff they let you know about themselves, and gives you kind of a peek into what's going on in this country, and I'm sure that's what's going on around the world. But it's just, there's so much distrust for the media now that it's kind of leaked into even medical, like doctors, experts, science, where even a little bit of difference in thought or idea from like right now with what's going on with COVID-19, because things have evolved and people are like, okay, well, what we thought initially isn't as terrible as what we found out now, has turned into, oh, these guys are lying to us. They're trying to control us. This is all a ploy, a political ploy to sabotage the economy and to kill small businesses. And maybe there is some kind of draconian effort like that to have us under control of Amazon and Target and Walmart and whatnot. But you guys got to relax. It's not it's not all a lie. And
well, I want to address the first thing you said first before we even get into like the meat of what you said. I want to address the outside, because you mentioned people hiding behind their avatars or whatever, right? Twitter people.
Right.
I don't even think it's one of the reasons why I continue to I'm not trying to make this about me, but I'm going to make it about me to prove my point here.
Your boycott.
Yeah, I got to the point where it's like, yeah, I feel something, but why do I need to share it with people? Why do I have to make someone know that I didn't like something, or that I really don't like that so and so said this, or like, fuck him for making this movie, da da da. You know what I mean? Like the shit talk, the hatred, the quips. Like, why do I need to throw that energy out there? Like, who is that even me? Is that really me? Right? These are the questions I was asking myself, because me and you might shoot the shit, but that's different between me and you, and then me and everybody else could just read it freely, and then you develop this like persona and stuff, right? So
it's like, just because you have the right to share your opinion doesn't mean you should or have to.
Or doesn't mean it's important, is a better way I would put it.
Right.
Like I genuinely believe that some people, whether they are aware of it or not, are doing things for that dopamine rush. They want that feedback loop of a like, you go girl, or you got him dude, like, whatever it might be, that validation, whatever, that just, and maybe that's reflective of like their own personal life. I don't know. I'm not trying to judge anybody here, or maybe not. Maybe they just like being trolls. But I definitely think that avatarness.
I mean, it goes beyond the avatar.
But even despite the fact that I said all this, you go on Facebook where there's no avatar. It's their person, like it's their name, it's their full information. You and I talked about people earlier, like a few episodes ago, who've been like doxxed basically, right? Because they were posting things on their Instagram, on their Facebook, where everyone knows that's the person, that's the individual. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it, right? So you're linked, and they're still being shit talkers and doing all these things. So like, it's a double-edged sword. So it's weird, and it kind of just goes to, now we can get to the meat. But I just wanted to cover that, like, because I think that's something to mention. Like, how many trolls out there are genuinely just trolls, or are just depressed and they have nothing better to do with their time other than to do with this, because they have shitty jobs or whatever it might be, XYZ, that's the only release that they have, is to just well,
like real life is so rough that this is how they kind of like,
or not rough
get
at
rid of
all,
that
or
bad
maybe it's
energy.
not rough at all, for them, and that's all they could do. Because like the Karens exist on both sides, but where do Karens stem from? People who have too much time on their hands.
They got so much time on their hands that they're able to start like looking for reasons to criticize people.
Right.
That if they were busier, they might not even think like consider.
Even why
Speaking out
bother?
about.
Why bother to make this restaurant employee's life a miserable day? Like,
Right.
just give me my food, like whatever. Like, why bother to do all these things? And we're not even addressing your point, though. I kind of got off topic a little bit by bringing up avatars and Twitter and stuff, but I think you sent me this article, and I wish I could bring it up, but I couldn't find it in the research. I don't know why, but you sent me an article about Fox News, or maybe I read it on my own, about Fox News, people who read Fox News. I think it was on the Hollywood Reporter, actually. People who read Fox News are more susceptible to believe that coronavirus is a hoax, that, all these things that basically you're alluding to right now, right?
Right.
And for me, it's always, am I a doctor? No. Is every doctor the best doctor on the planet? No, but most of them probably studied enough to know kind of how to interpret things, right? How to interpret data or whatever. So I'm probably going to listen to them when doctors are saying, hey, you should probably wear a mask. Just wear a mask, social distance.
Well, it's that, and science is always evolving as well.
Yeah.
No
one's ever right. We thought the planet was flat for how long?
Exactly.
I mean, some people still believe it's flat.
And it's just things are hypotheses. It's an educated guess. They're trying to use the facts that they do have to come up with a potential like answer to it, but it's not concrete until it is concrete. And that's why it's a hypothesis. So it's an experiment, and it's ever changing. So they're going to tell you what they know from what the data they have right now. And when they get more data, that might change.
It does change. It does change.
It does change. And for some reason, people can't wrap their heads around that concept. I sent you a podcast by Dr. Fareed, whatever his name. I know you probably didn't have enough time to listen to it, but
no, I got through about half of it. But I don't want to spoil it. But
there's no spoiling. But the main thing I sent it to you for was because at the very beginning, he talks about how even if the U.S. decided to attack this the way that Taiwan did, it wouldn't have worked because there's no universal health care here to collect data. Like the reason why Taiwan's plan of attack was, and that was basically, they didn't shut down the economy. They just basically, if somebody came up positive, they did contact tracing to make sure, to find out who else tested positive, rounded everybody up, and they quarantined them for 2 weeks and strict quarantine, did not let them leave their house for 2 weeks. And
I think I just read an article that they haven't had one in like 2 months, right? Every corona case in the country is related to like outside of the country. Right,
exactly. I think something similar in New Zealand's going on. But basically, he tied it into the universal health care. Not everybody should have health care. It wasn't like a political stance. It was more along the lines of, because Taiwan has this sort of healthcare system, a connected a network of healthcare that everyone's on, they were able to collect enough data to attack the infections when they came about, and it didn't lead to a spike because they were able to stop it from happening.
Yeah, but Gian, people only like to give their data away unwillingly in this country,
right?
Like,
yes, on TikTok.
Yeah, come on, like giving our data away to like actually help curb a virus or stop a pandemic from happening, no. But to get the Candy Crush app installed into your phone, absolutely. Like,
well, yeah, and I mean, it's a cultural thing too, where Americans are just selfish people. It's part
dumb
of the whole,
is what I would say. Dumb.
Okay, well, you could say that too, but it's that push for individualism rather than
they're dumb. Like they're dumb. They're dumb.
Right.
Whether that's because they don't have the time to be like smart because
they are so dumb.
80 hours,
They're so dumb that baseball players on your favorite team are told that they're
Justin
fucking
Turner,
positive
exactly.
for corona. They go back in, and then when the team wins, they come out to celebrate with the rest of the teammates, knowing that they tested fucking positive. You know, like so fucking selfish.
And he's from Long Beach too, so like that's my neighborhood pretty much. I have no words. That's LAUSD. You know, on the last podcast, whatever, we were talking about LASD and how they ranked in the country. There you go. There's your answer. That's what LAUSD produces. People who win the World Series and then go, hey, fool, let's go, Corona, yeah. Like, it's so funny. They announced, like, the way they announced. I guess we'll just talk about this real quick now.
You worked with people who knew they were positive and still went out and did stuff. You know, and I don't want to name names, but. You know, didn't tell their family.
Well,
you know.
I didn't work with them. I
almost did.
I almost did. They didn't get tested, so they don't know, but they were. Yeah. It took me a second to realize who we were talking about, and then I'm like, yeah, okay. But what was I saying, though? Oh, we might as well just talk about the World Series thing real quick. So they break the news at the end of the game because, you know, the broadcasts are like, oh, and for those who don't know what we're talking about, World Series, Dodgers won on Tuesday. And after the game, Justin Turner, one of the star players for the Dodgers, the broadcast team announced that he found out he tested positive in the 7th inning, and they took him out of the game. And I was like, oh, shit. And then the next thing they do is show all the players, they all have their masks on and stuff because, mind you, they kind of didn't throughout the series because they're living in a bubble, right? Like, that's the whole gimmick, right. Just like the UFC. I don't know if they're following UFC's plan, but it sounds like it, right?
So what the fuck did Justin Turner do to catch it?
Well, there's only 2 people who tested positive. Him and then one of the Rays' wives, something. One of the Rays' wives.
Wow, so he was fucking banging the Rays. They went out, they snuck out, had a little soiree, and whoever's wife it was, you're a fucking whore because Justin Turner, not a good-looking guy. Let me tell you, not a physical specimen. He looks exactly like the baseball players that other athletes talk shit about. Fucking short, fat, you know.
He looks like a Long
ginger.
Beach boy.
No offense, Dirty Stu. I know you're listening. We don't hate gingers.
Well, I was gonna say
here,
maybe she's into gingers. There's not that many in the major league, so you know.
She want to catch that fire crotch.
I'm just, you know, whatever. Anyway, so they pulled him.
Maybe she was a ginger too, so they kind of they had a gingy connection.
They didn't even have to text each other. They just knew where to meet and everything. It was just kinetic.
Right. It was the lack of soul. They know you don't have a soul either.
But yeah, so they took him out of the game. They isolated him from everybody. The Dodgers went on to win the World Series, and then an hour later he comes out and celebrates with his team, as Gian said. He first with his mask. First he was social distancing, and then the photos started happening. The team photo where he took the mask off, and you can literally see all of these pictures and stuff. And you know, it's not just the families who are there with little kids and everything like that. It's the other teammates. It's all these other things, and everyone's come out to defend him. Actually, in terms of the teams, the players say like we were with each other all day, like whatever, like we've been around each other. Like they're completely supportive. Same thing with Dave Roberts and Andrew Friedman is also saying the same thing. But of course, baseball is they're making this an investigation and stuff like that. So it's interesting, the whole situation, because what do? You might not ever go back to the World Series again. Is it selfish? Yeah, but
okay, so let me ask you this then. What if one of like the older trainers, like I don't know how young or old the staff is, but let's say you have an older person on the staff and that person gets infected and ends up dying.
Then it's 100% Justin Turner's fault.
And does that turn into a homicide case? Do you think he should be charged,
No.
Or manslaughter?
No, because then you'd have to start doing that for other people. You'd have to prove without a shadow of a doubt that this coronavirus came from Justin Turner. And how do you do that? Right. How do you do that?
I mean, but you can also set a precedent because he's a high-profile person versus Joe Schmo on the street.
How do you prove that it came from him and not somebody else?
Hey, I didn't say he's going to be found guilty.
No,
but I'm just saying.
No, I don't think about that. I don't think because then you'd have to do it for other people who've come before him too.
Okay, but what about in civil court? You don't need as much proof in civil court. Like if that's my dad.
But see, why would I go after Justin Turner when I can go after the MLB?
Fair enough.
Because why didn't the MLB have... Because the MLB is trying to play we have a player contract with the union, and he violated that because he willingly went. And it's like, well, why don't you arrest him or something? Why didn't you have some sort of other protocol, like, in place for this? Like, it doesn't make sense because they're all asking, like...
Why didn't they lock him up in the fucking freezer?
No, why didn't they do what John... yeah, why didn't they do what John Smoltz said? Why didn't they just drive him to the hotel so he could not come back?
Immediately.
They left him in the ballpark for the entire duration of everything.
And when he left, they were winning because he got.
But he didn't leave though. He just got
no. I know when they pulled him out of the game, the Dodgers were already up.
Yeah.
So they knew there was a possibility that the Dodgers were going to win.
And that's probably why they kept him there so he could be in the stadium. But it's like. Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. It's like almost a setting up. And then they're asking him, like, well, what if they went to Game 7? What would you have done? And they're like, no comment. Because they had no idea.
Right.
It happened on the last day. Thankfully, it happened on the last day for them so they can
forget
about it.
Well, they knew they didn't put Kenley Jansen in the game, so they knew they were going to win.
I'm not even going to go there.
I've been arguing with analytics nerds, like, since that night, and it's like... Finally, some other person interjected, and they were like, hey, you keep on saying the Dodgers are this big analytics team. Well, they left fucking Julio Urias out there 3 extra innings.
Yeah, but I would have done that
the
too.
Night before. No, but that's completely against the analytics. That's the point.
Well, see, my analytics say that Julio Urias is better, and that's because it's true.
That's not... The data says... that him pitching 2 innings the night before, he should only pitch 2 innings the next day.
Yeah, but he has that fucking Mexican power. He does. He has the blood of rookie Fernando Valenzuela running through him.
Ah, poor Snell. Got snelled.
He did.
Poor guy. It's
you kind of have to pour one out for him too, because that was all the coach's fault, really. Like that, but the coach kind of said it right. He's like, yeah, but if it would have worked out, no one would have said anything. And that's true also. If they would have got out of the jam there.
Absolutely. But just and we're not going to talk about baseball too much here, but it's one of those things where, yeah, you study the laws of probability and whatever, and you study the data and you factor in this bullshit and that fucking bullshit, but it's like there's other data that goes against your decision. For example, the Dodgers, especially Mookie Betts and Justin Turner for that matter, their splits against left-handed hitters, not very good. Actually, downright terrible. So why don't you play that number versus, his justification was, well, we've seen the numbers, and the third time through the order, batters seem to be a little bit better against Snell. He's good the first 2 times, but the third time, like...
See, that's where I don't understand. I'm not a manager. I'm not around baseball all the time, so I don't have that mindset. I don't have someone down my throat either, so I can't pretend to be a baseball coach. But when I'm just listening to you say this, and I'm like, yeah, but the dude's been lights out today. It's not about what he's done in the past or what the analytics say. It's about what's going on right now. It's like not being in the moment. It's not being aware of like, okay, yeah, that might be true, but like, look how this dude is pitching. Like,
it is absolutely, and that's the issue that everybody is having, that it's not in the moment and that they use a script. He has an actual script that says when we get to the 6th inning, once we get to the 3rd time around the order, we're pulling him out no matter what. I don't care if he's throwing a fucking no-hitter. They have a script and it says that.
Dave Roberts did that. Dave Roberts did that just to cut you off real quick. Dave Roberts did take out, what's his name? 38-year-old dude, I'm forgetting. I don't know. I like him. Dude with the warts. He had the wart blisters on his hands. The older dude. Whatever. Anyway, he was like, he was in the 8th inning or something. They took him out in a perfect game. Right. Because of like... He started to get whatever because that's what the analytics said. Because
that's the most awesome thing about this is the Dodgers won the World Series for 2 reasons. Number one, infinitely more fucking talented than Tampa Bay roster. The Tampa Bay roster, how the fuck they made it to the World Series?
Although what's his name was pretty hot for the whole.
Yeah, the Cuban guy, Arozarena. Arozarena was on fire.
Really?
Everybody else in that lineup was fucking trash. I'm like sitting here like, how the fuck are these guys on? Like,
he had the cheat codes on for sure.
It's almost like, you know, I have to like give credit to the analytics because somehow with analytics, the Rays took this trash ass team to the World Series. Also, you know, 60-game season, so who knows how it would have played out over 162 games. But to be fair, the Rays have been competitive over the last few years with this system that they have running.
Thanks for Andrew Friedman.
Right, he was with the Rays. But on the flip side of that, you as a Dodger fan and me as a Dodger hater know that analytics and Dave Roberts have fucking killed the Dodgers multiple times in big situations like this. And it was kind of like, oh, Dave Roberts was right about ready to screw everything up, and Kevin Cash is like, hold my beer. Let me do it for you. And just let it fucking play out the way
they even said it.
did.
Like, all the Corey Seager, they were like, dude, we were so happy when he took him out because
well, and
we were like getting demoralized.
To play the analytics card on the flip side again, the Dodgers kill right-handed pitching. They destroy right-handed pitching. It's insane. I went, you know, for you guys out there, if you listen at all, you know I play daily fantasy. So I am now more familiar with the Dodgers and a lot of other teams than I've ever been before by looking at these numbers, because I use these numbers to play my fucking gambling, basically. And the Dodgers splits, especially Mookie Betts and Corey Seager versus right-handed hitting, is insanity. It's beyond MVP level. So the second you pull out this left-hander, the top three guys in the Dodgers, their 1, 2, 3 hitters had all struck out, both at bats.
16 times.
Six
times.
Yeah, 6 times between the top 3 guys in the order. You pull them out to put a right-hander in that they had already lit up earlier in the series as well. You know, it wasn't like, oh yeah, the last time they faced him, he was dominant. You know, no. So they were chomping at the bit. They were like, oh, for real? Okay, cool, let's do this. And immediately, fucking Betts hits a double. Seager singles him in. I mean, your own numbers played you. Like, why didn't you pay attention to that aspect of the number rather than your stupid fucking script, you automaton?
It's all about that he struck him out. Like, how hot was he pitching? What would he had 9 strikeouts or something when they took him out? Like, that was his first hit of the game, like something like that. Yeah. Like,
it was the second hit he'd given up, and it wasn't like a hard hit ball either. You know, it was just like a little fucking duck fart single. You know,
to me,
but it didn't matter. Even if he got Barnes out, they still would have pulled him out because he has a script. He has an actual script that says, boom, he does it's paint by numbers. How the fuck do you play baseball paint by numbers?
I mean, it works both ways though, because that's like one of the that's one of the things that, how do I put this? When Don Mattingly was the manager of the Dodgers, that's how the Dodgers baseball was. 100%. He was like that weird transition period because Joe Torre, when the new owners came, I think it was Joe Torre, and then from Joe Torre it's transitioned to Don Mattingly, and like towards the end of Mattingly is like they had like a lot of these scuff ups because Mattingly would not pull somebody or he wouldn't be because that was the guy, you know, that type of thing, which is kind of going away now. I feel like from all baseball, there's no guy anymore. There's no setup man. There's no like.
Well, what you have happening, and I know it's happening in San Francisco now, is the managers don't have the control over the game that they used to. They're answering to the general manager. The general manager is coming up with a plan, and they're giving it to the managers.
The Giants are. Who's the Giants working with? The guys that were with the fucking Dodgers.
Right. Gabe Kapler was with I think he was with the Phillies last.
No, the GM. What's his name?
Oh yeah. It's Farhan Zaidi. Well, let's take it back even further. Farhan Zaidi was assistant general manager with the A's, the team that started
the Billy
this whole
Bean.
bullshit.
Yeah.
So all these guys are connected to Billy Bean somewhere along the line. But it's one of those things now where like the manager doesn't make the decisions anymore.
Or if he does make the right decision, it better be right. Otherwise.
Right. Exactly. If he goes against it, it's predetermined, you know, to a certain extent. And it's crazy to me. And I'm not anti-analytics. I think there's data there. You should study it, but it should be a happy medium between both because this is real life.
Let's be fair here
They're
for a
not
second.
robots.
Let's pause for a second. None of this would have happened None of this would be a discussion if the Dodgers would have just won the game that they should have won 2 nights before this.
Oh. Right.
I'm just saying.
That one play brought me so much satisfaction, but now it's not as satisfying anymore. Because it was
the Bill Buckner moment.
They used to have DVDs where they'd have like best bloopers in baseball. And
that was number
been
1
on that DVD. Yeah, that would have been on it because it
in
was
the
like
World Series too.
I can't. It happened so fast. Was it Mookie or Bellinger that made the error in the outfield?
Chris Taylor.
It was Chris Taylor that made the
Taylor.
Right field?
Yeah, he missed the ball, and then he bobbled it, I think, or something like that, and then he threw it in. And then Jensen didn't back up the catcher. So when the catcher did his swipe tag, which is fine, I don't blame the catcher at all, even though I think he was the one charged with the error.
But it was so funny that he does this like fucking pirouette and the ball goes flying and he doesn't even realize that the ball's out of his glove until it's too late.
Yeah, and there was no backup person. The Little League, after the runner fell down, like he fell down at third and he got up and was like, fuck, I'm out. And then the manager's like, go. And he's like, oh.
That was a bad news Bears play for sure, but yeah, it's fair enough. I get you there, but
that was the blooper of all bloopers. That was the Dodgers game.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
You can't really argue that one. That's baseball at its finest, in my opinion, because them's the rules. The rules are the rules. Like when I was watching that, I'm like, oh my god, like because you can't fight it, you can't argue it, you can't do anything. That was just pure like you lost.
And I think we're seeing this again in Game 6. I think Game 6, the baseball gods wanted a Game 7. And maybe it wouldn't happen because the Rays weren't hitting either.
No.
After that home run, that was it. You got what you got, and that was the end of it. But I don't know. Let's talk Quibi. Let's get people back onto it.
Well, you wanted to talk Quibi, so you introduce it. You set it up.
So I want to talk about it because we mentioned it in the last podcast, and I hadn't really looked into it. And you had made this offhand comment that it was basically like a paid subscription to YouTube, which is a dumb idea. And I just, I didn't think about it because I didn't read into it. And then I find out that Jeffrey Katzenberger.
Yeah, he was the one he was the founder. Yeah.
Yeah, behind DreamWorks, behind I forget what music company, but everything he's touched has turned into billion-dollar companies, sunk everything into this idea, and the hubris. It's insane.
It's just called being out of touch, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's arrogance. That's hubris. Not realizing that, hey, maybe I'm too old and maybe I need to bring on younger people to let me know what's going on with the world because I could barely operate my fucking smartphone.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I get the point though. I'm sure he knows how to use a smartphone.
Hey, you're sure, but you don't know. Okay,
I don't know.
There's a chance that he still has fucking buttons on his phone.
I don't know.
Really fucking big, so he can see them.
I don't know because even if I were to see him in the subway, I wouldn't even know that was him. Like I could sit next to him in the subway, I wouldn't even know it was him. So
yeah, I have no idea what he looks like either. So
I know the name though. I know the name, and I know in DreamWorks where he is. That's the SKG. That's the K and the G, along with Spielberg, and then the other one.
Katzenberg, not Katzenberger, but. You throw a picture of him up on the screen, please.
When I saw the original idea, I didn't get it, and when it went bankrupt, I'm like, yeah, okay. Because at first I'm like, this is dumb, and then 3 months in, I'm like, this is still dumb, but they're getting money now. Like Kevin Hart's doing movies on there. Reno 911's coming on there. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe I might want to get a subscription and check them out now. Genuinely, I was thinking that. I'm like,
right.
If this is going to be the revival of like short form stuff, and you have these little things, I'm like, okay, maybe. And then cut to 3 months later, they're already bankrupt and they that's it. So
like, where did that $2 billion go? They dumped $2 billion into this thing. Because I didn't really know what Quibi, people mentioned Quibi and I saw ads for it, on like ESPN and shit like that, and I didn't even bother looking into it because they just the name itself sounds stupid. That was enough to keep me away from it. But once I found out what it actually was, it was like it's basically just branded YouTube content. It's more famous people doing like YouTube shit, but maybe more scripted, a lot more scripted, but it was still the same kind of thing. Like I can watch short form videos for free on this site that I've been watching them on for free now for a decade or over a decade. So like how is that a good idea to try to even compete with that? I mean, we're on YouTube. That's our biggest that's our biggest market. You know what I mean? Nobody pays for it. How are you going to get someone to jump over into a brand new platform that has a completely different interface? I don't know. Just because you got some stars on it, I don't know.
Well, let's just be honest. He's not going to be hurting after it.
Oh, look, that $2 billion is not his money.
And even beyond that, like he's still who he is, so he's not going to be. There's no reason to start playing the world's saddest violin for him either.
No, I don't feel bad for him whatsoever.
I just think you fail.
70 years old too, like
you live and you learn, and hopefully his next project, whatever that might be, he learns from it. That's all. I hope the best. I don't want him to fail or whatever. I just think this is a bad call. It's just a bad decision, and sometimes, let's just say he earned the right, quote unquote, I'll say this, he earned the right to make a mistake this big.
Sure, debatable, but sure.
Well, I mean, people trusted and believe in him so much that he made an idea he thought was going to be the next big thing. And here's the reality. The idea could have worked 10 years ago. 15 years ago. Imagine this idea 10 years ago, yeah, because we were in film school 5 years ago. Imagine 5 years, like that's YouTube. YouTube came out, 2006? Imagine that there was a professional YouTube a few years after YouTube launched.
Right.
Before there was even a market for that stuff, and then all of a sudden people were just... So is the idea bad? No, it's just too late. So I wouldn't say it's hubris or something.
Well, isn't the argument though like a late idea is a bad idea?
Yeah, but I think it's an innocently bad idea. I don't necessarily think he was going to take over.
I sent you this article from the Hollywood Reporter, A Bottomless Need to Win, How Quibi's Implosion Shapes Katzenberg's Legacy and Future. And
yeah, but I don't know. There's so many things going on.
Behind it.
My point is,
do you think if the Rona doesn't hit that this thing works? Do you think the Rona had anything to do with it?
No, I think the idea is too late. I think it was too late. When you have TikTok, and like you said at the very beginning of this whole thing, when you have these programs and services that are offering these things for free, and then I don't even remember if it was like $1.99 a month, $2.99 a month, sure, why not? That's just throwaway money. But when you're $9.99 a month, you better be offering Netflix service. You better. I won't even go there. You better be giving me Netflix service or like Amazon service or HBO service or all these other services that are $9.99 around that service. If you're not giving me something like that, why am I going to you? And I think the thing is, yeah, it's just no one cares for these short form content anymore. Or maybe not this type of short form content. Maybe they picked the wrong market. I mean, who knows? Maybe if they would have got like a Chappelle Show style 10-minute skits or something, maybe it would have been better. I don't know. Like,
or maybe he wasn't the guy we thought he was. Because he worked all the other projects he's worked with.
I wouldn't. Hitters. I wouldn't strip that from him. I wouldn't strip that.
He worked with David Geffen, but it's the truth. It's the truth. It's like Michael Jordan retired. Scottie Pippen wasn't winning championships anymore.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean
Scottie Pippen was a bad player.
But that's how I take what you're saying as though. That's why I'm saying I don't want to go that far. I think people make bad decisions.
I'm browsing through this article, and it's talking about how he was the last 30 years he's been trying to turn himself into a mogul. He's been trying to take over some of these big companies, and he's never been given the chance to do so.
Hey,
So this like he this was his way of trying to say like, hey, I got what it takes, and I'm gonna make this new thing.
but I mean,
huge.
I don't know what Geffen does like currently, but even Spielberg's a little bit out of touch. Like,
Absolutely.
so it's not I don't think it, and I love Spielberg. I think Spielberg's still one of the greatest filmmakers walking on this face of the earth. I don't think anyone's done it better, and for a million different reasons. But you watch a movie like Ready Player One, and it was awesome, and it was fun, and I loved it, and I enjoyed it. But also, there's definitely like, this was my childhood as playing video games in the 80s. You know,
Right.
not necessarily I'm a gamer in 2016 or whenever it came out. Not to say he does not familiar with what games are out. Not to say he's not played them himself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure
Well,
he
it was
has.
also
I'm sure he has
the source material.
Of course,
was also,
but I'm saying,
yeah.
but you can just say, though, you could just see that the modern approach to some of these situations wasn't very like contemporary to our times. Like,
Right.
and I know it's based on a book, so I'm not hating on him for that. I'm just saying, like, you could have thrown some trolls in there. Like, there should have been some little touches that would have really, that gamers would have resonated with. But you know, that's neither here nor there. That's not my point. That's just a little picky note, because I loved Ready Player One. I thought it was awesome. So who am I to really talk? But I don't know. I just think it was a bad business decision, and the fact that it was worth $2 billion is what everyone's talking about. If it was just a $50 million investment that failed, maybe you wouldn't be talking about it like this. But somehow he got it. He got the money because he was able to pitch that vision, and he was able to get together a product that people just ultimately didn't want. But it wasn't for lack of trying. Because I think it's a failure at start. Like, how do you make that even successful in today's market? But you
Right.
can't say he didn't try. Kevin Hart is the biggest name that you could probably get, and he was signed with them and stuff. I think The Rock even did. There was a lot of big names that worked with Quibi. A lot of Quibi checks were signed, especially, you know what I mean?
Oh, well, yeah. Once they started getting, once they got almost $2 billion to invest, you're going to start getting people's ears are going to start perking up because of the money.
Well, I'm just saying, like, so it's not a lack of trying or a lack of, like, effort. It's just a bad idea from the beginning because there's too much free stuff. It's like, if we're to tie it back to the Fox News and because it's the big lie. He thought that this was going to be something else. You know, he kept lying to himself that this was going to be something else, and he couldn't accept, or maybe he did accept it because he closed shop after 6 months. Maybe he realized all the people were right, telling him that it shouldn't be this way or something. I don't know. Maybe he did have detractors.
Well, if you guys are interested, you can definitely take a look at this Hollywood Reporter because I'm skimming through it. And it's not painting a very pretty picture.
No, I've read this article. It doesn't, which is why I'm being a little defensive of the guy because, it's like they're on a campaign against him. It's as if like Hollywood Reporter put in a nice $100 million or something, and they're like, I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe they did. But we reviewed Borat. I don't know if that dropped before or it's going to drop after this. Let's talk about, you sent an article about the Holocaust segment. If you haven't seen Borat yet, 3, 2, 1, we're talking Borat spoilers right now. There's a scene where, the joke is that Borat is upset because these QAnon conspiracy theorists said that they tell him that the Holocaust never happens. So because he hates Jews so much, his character hates Jews so much, Kazakhstan hates Jews so much, like, it's heartbreaking.
He's sad. He's sad that it didn't happen.
He's sad because millions of Jews didn't die. And he meets up at a temple somewhere with these actual Holocaust survivors, and they have this moment where it's like, unwittingly, they're like giving this man like hope again and hugging him and sympathizing with him because the Holocaust is real, and he's happy about it. Well,
well, just before we get into that, and then the whole point of this segment, and it was edited down because apparently Facebook actually started. So the reason that how this all came up is Facebook and Twitter and all these places wouldn't delete groups that promoted that these things were fake, right? That the Holocaust isn't real, which is the whole angle that QAnon is in because they're one of the people who sponsored this idea that the Holocaust is fake. So this was going to be an attack on Facebook, and then Facebook did reverse this and they banned all those groups. So in the editing, they took it out. But that's why it's in there still, is it has to do with them confirming that it's real, but the whole play on it is to really talk shit to people who believe it's not real. That's the whole gag. It's not, just to clarify that for some people, because it kind of is a little random scene out of nowhere. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm guessing the lady must have passed away before the movie came out because it says the estate.
Yeah, she did. She did pass away, and they didn't know. So they didn't know that the movie was going to be made like this. So they were incredibly offended that their, relative was represented this way, and totally understandable why they would feel this way. But the article I sent Gian actually talks about two things. One of the things is about this, and that the lawsuit was thrown out because they showed the actual the B-roll or whatever, the actual full long take of the interaction. We get it. There's more to it than just make it. Because to see the scene, he also comes in with like a costume, like to pretend to be a Jew or something, like
right, with this long like claws and
everything,
and a prosthetic nose,
all this stuff to blend in, like. But the real reason why I sent the article is not necessarily because of that. I actually sent it just to talk about. He made $80 million. That's how much they sold the movie for. You and I were discussing like what it would be, like what this would all cost, and yeah, it was like $80 million. They had what I thought was interesting was a negative pickup deal, which means that Sacha gets to. I'm reading this now. Baron Cohen shoots all of his undercover movies this way, which gives him complete control. So basically, they allow him to. He's allowed to make the movie how he wants. And then he gives it to him, and then he's like, this is the movie. And they're like, okay, cool. So he's earned that, which I think is kind of interesting. And then, like I said, Amazon paid $80 million. Apparently there was a big bidding war between everybody once everyone figured out that this was really going to happen. Yeah.
Well, it's also starving for content as well, everybody, because everything getting shut down.
They figured that $80 million would cover what he would be getting paid if the movie was released theatrically. So
right.
Personally, and the reason why Sacha went this way is because he didn't care about theatrical distribution. He just wanted people to watch this, because if you've seen the movie, the movie literally ends with now go vote, and that's all this. It's all political. It's all meant to get people to vote. Just like This Is America last time. And, you mentioned in the review, where his political allegiance is a lie, and for me personally, why not? For me, I love Borat, the character, everything about it. If it took Trump to get us another one, well, okay then, I'm not going to say it was worth it, but I'm also not going to say it wasn't.
And this reminds me of why the whole reason why I brought up the beginning of the podcast about people not trusting the media and confirmation bias and whatnot. And it has to do with, and it's something we didn't talk about, and it was a hot subject last week, but the New York Post put out an article that said
the Hunter Biden stuff.
The Hunter Biden stuff. Hunter Biden left his laptop at somebody's shop.
Oh God.
Didn't pay to pick it up. And then the guy went into his laptop and found some incriminating stuff and sent it over to the FBI. Well, people saw this article, started posting it, and immediately every social media place shut it down. Facebook shut it down. Twitter shut it down. Why? Because of the last election, stuff like this was coming out. They feel like their sites influenced the election.
It's also good to note that The people who, with this information, quote unquote, went to other news publications and they all turned them down, and the New York Post was the only one willing to run the story. And if anyone's ever read the New York Post, you know that that's not saying anything at all.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
go ahead,
There's a lack of credibility with that with that news site. So yeah. So everyone's like, hey, this article sounds bogus. There's nothing credible about it. There's no like. Up to this time, the government hasn't released anything. I don't even think Trump has mentioned anything about this article. You know, so they basically shut it down because it's just not a credible. Facebook's been doing it. I don't know when they started doing it. I want to say maybe earlier this year. That anytime you try to post an article, they would say, "Hey, there's some shit in here that's not like actually true, and it can be misleading. So like, you know, read this with a fine-tooth comb." They took it to a step further and basically said, no, you can't post this on the site. We're not letting you spread this bullshit on here. So instead of people saying, oh, wait, this article that's coming out is bullshit, they took it the complete opposite way. Like, no, Facebook is fucking lying to us, and they're trying to withhold information from the public, and that's why. That's why they're redacting this article.
You can't outspin people who just spin all the time. You can literally just spin everything. I mean, did you hear about Tucker Carlson got this information? Like he had the actual stuff, and then he lost it. So now all of the information is no, I'm dead serious. I just read an article about this. They didn't make any copies of this information. So now that information, that the Hunter Biden information that you're talking about right now, is lost. The only copy is gone. They mailed it from the East Coast to LA or something, or vice versa, and it was lost. It's gone.
So some information that was supposedly in the hands of the feds and the CIA even somehow got to Tucker Carlson, and
Tucker lost it. Yeah. That's it.
This is unreal.
And he said this. He said this himself. Like he said this. It's not like the Huffington Post writes this article, BuzzFeed News, like these fake news places. Like I even say they're fake news, because I don't like every time Apple refers me to a BuzzFeed News article, I get so angry, because unless their journalism has increased over the last few years, which I don't believe it to be, I just don't like them because they're so left-leaning. Just like I don't like right-leaning publications; they're too far right. You know, but BuzzFeed just drives me insane.
Yeah,
I hide BuzzFeed. I have BuzzFeed and Huffington
is a bunch
Post.
Of fucking fresh out of college kids.
And Huffington Post. I just both of them.
Virtue signaling. It's funny. It's almost like Tucker Carlson's like, I don't want to let my base down, so I'm just gonna make up some bogus excuse so that they're like.
I'm gonna see if I can find it. Tucker.
I look right now. Fox News, Tucker Carlson, how UPS explained the missing Biden family documents, and then there's one on the Daily Beast, which is that the name of that website alone
sounds super credible.
Tucker Carlson suddenly says it's time to leave Hunter Biden alone. You know, I feel like maybe he did read it, he did get it, he read it, he was like, oh, this is bullshit. But how do I not make myself seem like a sympathizer? Because I have seen him on other podcasts, non-Fox, and his takes, he's not a fan of President Trump. He's actually not a fan of the policies and a lot of the stuff that's going on either. So he's actually going against the fan base of Fox News. So maybe it's just a ratings thing and trying to keep his job, because he's like one of those guys that he's not ever going to be able to. I guess he started working at CNN maybe, but he's already painted himself into a corner where he's not going to be able to jump into like a neutral media.
Yeah, it's a wrap at that point. Like you're kind of well. I mean, Megyn Kelly. Oh no, she got fired from MSNBC, huh? Because she went to MSNBC from Fox.
Yeah, and then she did the stupid like "What's wrong with blackface?" kind
That's what it was, and then that's what.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it matters. I just think my whole point was not to. I'm not talking about. I wasn't shitting on him. Like, I'm just saying, like, it's just funny that now this evidence that everyone was going after is now gone because Tucker lost it, and now that's gonna just. What a way to keep a conspiracy alive forever now, right?
Absolutely.
That's my whole point. That's why I brought it up. Not to shit on Tucker at all.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to the very beginning of the podcast. It's confirmation bias. You're looking for a reason to believe what you believe in, and they gave you that reason.
And they're all lies, because at the end of the day, I call it a lie because whether or not it's true or not, it doesn't really make a difference in your life, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't matter. I really believe, I don't get it. Like, can we just talk about that for a second? I know we've been talking for a little bit now, but what is the issue, if there was one, what is the issue with Hunter Biden?
Well, the claims are allegedly that he had inside dealings with Ukraine from his position and that he was feeding his father information. Shit like that. That they were trying to tie it into, like, Biden had a connection.
So he was a spy. They're mad he's a spy?
I guess. You know, there's some financial dealings that Biden was trying to use Ukraine to help him win the election or some shit, but then I guess it just happened like in 2016 if it did happen, so it was before Biden even jumped into the fucking race. Like, I don't know exactly. You can't find the article, but it was trying to, like, it started as ties to foreign entities because he was like working overseas with some oil company.
Okay, but let's just say it's true. Let's say it's true. Okay, but what's for reals? Let's say it's true.
What I'm saying is it has turned from that into there's videos of him smoking crack with hookers. That's what I'm saying. It's evolved from like you know, a potential treason to no, he's just a fucking dope fiend who is having sex with hookers or, like, you know, smoking dope with hookers. Like, you know, and it's one of those, and it's like, it's, you know, and if that's
but isn't that kind of like how people try to get Trump for, like, grab him by the pussy?
Well, yeah, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So I don't understand how it would work the other way around, you know?
Because it works for the other side.
I guess so. Like, listen, if you want to talk about morality and it didn't affect you from voting who you voted for, why should you care about morality when it comes to the side you weren't going to vote for in the first place? That's the way I look at it. It's a bit of it's hypocrisy is what it is. And not to mention Hunter Biden isn't running for fucking office.
That's where my thing is. That's the one thing I don't get, because you're going to tell me that Donald Trump's son or daughter or whatever, they don't have any sort of, like, leverage now that they're the daughters of Donald Trump? Like, they're not getting into rooms that they, you know, you're telling me that they don't have special treatment? Like,
and it's already been proven that they are.
Like, and not even on, and on top of that, like, the whole secret bank account thing in China, like, what's the problem with that too? I don't get it. If that, like, am I supposed to be shocked that a businessman has an account in a country that he does business with? Am I supposed to, like, but at the same token, I just wish that people would hate on their own side a little bit. That's all I think that's all I wish people would do a little more.
Well, it's not even hating, it's accountability.
Yes, well, that to me is hating. That is the accountability. Holding him accountable and hating on him a little bit. Talking some shit, throwing some dirt on him. Saying, okay, look, you know what, Democrats? You're fucking wrong on this, this, and this. We're also wrong, too, when it comes to, like, because Trump did have a fucking Chinese bank account, and I got to say, that fucked up my trust in him a little bit. Like, they should outright say that if they really believe that China or, like, all these countries have bad... They should say, you know, I love Trump, but him and Putin, you know, I don't know. Them together, that really bothers me. I just wish they would be consistent on that. That's all. And
absolutely.
Because you can't have it both ways. If you want to be pure anti-Russia, pure anti-China, pure anti-Korea, North Korea, I mean... go for it, but don't swish wash. Don't, like, you know, just play the side. That's my thing. Just be consistent. If you have a problem with Russian, in terms of Russia and their politics and Vladimir Putin and all this stuff, be against it. Just own it when your side also is, like, doing the same thing that the other side does, because that's just how politics is.
And it goes back to another movie review we did tonight. That's on the channel. Just be consistent. Consistency. That's all we're asking for. Not to end this podcast on a conspiracy theory note, but I feel like I have to. I sent you a video of these white people getting into fights with each other at some weird political rally somewhere. Trump and Pence supporters, or not Pence, Biden.
You texted
and
it to me.
And I want to end with this video, but
no, we can end with it we can watch it. I'll share the screen. Just send it to me on Slack if you can.
it's this group of people arguing with each other, and the only thing I took from it was white people are going to start a civil war with each other, and people like Daniel and Aaron and myself are
Gonna be the victims.
We're gonna be the fucking casualties of the civil war. That's what I saw. I was like, because it was like the same kind of people that we talk shit about all the time from that part of the country as well, on opposite sides, ready to fight each other. And
I'm gonna present it. Hold on. I'm gonna try it out. Let's see if it works. Can you see this?
Yes. I think I have that. Oh, there it goes.
Okay, so, all right. So, this is the video you sent.
Oh! Hey! You stay away from him! I will fucking hurt you!
He kind of has the same hair as me right now.
What you sent me is like coming in slow motion on my end.
Oh, well, it won't be.
That's fine. I've seen this enough. I'm actually seeing more detail because of the slow motion. That the old timer comes up and he's like, "Hey guys, come on."
I love. Did you see his Punisher shirt? I'm pausing it right here.
Oh, the Trump. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want.
Me too.
I kind of want that shirt.
With the Trump backwards hat too, like the trucker hat. Like, I just want to know where they're at.
That dude's shirt's kind of baggy, and his shirt matches the hat, so I think there's a little bit of hood in that guy. He's wearing his mask.
He's a 16-year-old autistic boy, Gian, and you're making fun of him.
I'm not making fun of the autistic boy.
I will slap the goddamn taste out of you. No violence. Joe Biden's no president.
You're mad.
No violence. No violence. No violence. No violence. Feels that way? No violence. Let me tell you something, you aborted bastard. You're a retro.
I see this, and the only thing I can see, like, people breaking up the fight is like, come on, people. You're white.
The only way I could see
We're all
people
white.
breaking this fight up is with a bucket of fried chicken, bro. That's the only way I could see. You got to bring it right to him, and then be like, okay.
I don't know. She looks more like a fucking bacon double cheeseburger type lady.
She looks like a bacon cheeseburger. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, man. But wanted to go out a little bit of reaction hour style here. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks for watching. You know the drill. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Ring the bell if you already are. And we will see you on the next one.